I get asked that question, Darren, what's the one thing that makes a person be successful or non-successful in this business? And you said it yourself, it's discipline.
All right, welcome to the Leverage Podcast, and we have Darren James here with us today. Darren, he's been he's an agent with EXP, a very successful realtor, and he's been in the industry for 22 years, since 2001. Is that right, Darren?
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah. So that's been a long time, and you sold probably thousands of homes by now, right? Since you've been in the business.
Yeah, a lot of houses, my friend.
Yeah. So last year alone, I guess you sold hundreds of homes. I bet.
Yes, sir. So last year we closed out, I think, 468 last year with our team.
Wow.
I personally brokered 124 last year. Best year I ever did individually was 169 by myself. Team did right at 700. It's the best year. That was 2017 that we had. But yeah, we move a lot of houses, change a lot of lives, and that's the most important part. So.
Wow. Well, that's truly amazing, Darren, and that's why I wanted to talk to you personally and see. I mean, obviously, you've been in the industry for quite some time. You have a background in law enforcement. You were a cop for some time, right?
I was, yeah. So I started out, and my wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and long and the story short, I was working multiple jobs in law enforcement to make ends meet, and ended up getting led to real estate, and fell in love with the business, and made a career change in 2006 to go do it full time. So
it's like a black hole, just right. It sucks you right in, right?
It does. Once you get it in your blood, it's
it. Once you get in, there's no way out.
That's right.
I bet. So you got into the business like full time in 2006, you said, right?
2006,
right. That was a pre-2008.
That's right. The market crash. That's right. Yes, I actually was working part time. So I got licensed in 2001, working part time. My wife wanted to be a stay at home mom, and so I ended up working 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday with state police, and then I'd work an after hours job stocking shelves at a local Office Max supply store till 11 o'clock at night, and then working on Saturdays and Sundays at a sporting goods store. So it was a lot of work, and ended up getting into real estate, cut back on 2 of those other jobs, and just fell in love with the business. And by the time I left from 2001 to 2006, I was selling about 52 houses a year on a part-time basis.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. 52 houses a year. Basically, you had a closing every week.
Every week. Yeah. Once a week. Yeah.
Wow.
It was great. We were doing a lot of deals. And so it's, I didn't want to go through life, I didn't want to wonder what if I made that choice at a later time period, regret not going into it full time, because I was so, young in my career and still, doing state police full time. I figured that, if I go ahead and jump and do this full time, take that chance, if I fail at it and don't do really well, then I can always go back. And, the Lord blessed me and allowed me to succeed. And so here we are, 22 years later and still grinding, doing the same thing. So
still doing the same thing, right? Yeah. So I guess the career in law enforcement might have helped to shape your discipline and your grit, because that's what it takes a lot in this business. Not a lot of agents realize that it actually self-discipline is what actually gets you going and gets you to be successful.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. That's, if I get asked that question, Darren, what's the one thing that, that makes a person be successful or non-successful in this business? And you said it yourself, it's discipline. Absolutely. Because there's a lot of time vampires in this business. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of opportunity to waste time. In other words, if I want to go take a 5-hour lunch break and sit there and talk, I'm not really doing anything productive, right? I'm just sitting there taking a 5-hour lunch break. It's not really generating to the most dollar productive activities that go along with what's going to make impact my income the next, 90 days down the road. So there's a lot of time vampires, and that's one of the things.
Vampire, it's a very interesting term. I haven't heard of that.
Well,
it's a really good explanation of that.
Absolutely, they suck the freaking time away from your day. That's what they do. They suck it out of you. And, that's the one commodity, no matter how much money we all make in this world, we cannot buy more time. And and it comes down to that discipline.
Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or a homeless bum. You only have 24 hours in a day.
That's right. How do you get there? And how do you maximize the efficiency of that time? That's the key in the process. Yep.
Yeah. And that's what we actually do here at Virtudesk. We provide people with more time by having them hire a virtual assistant and leveraging their time.
And y'all do a fantastic job at that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So Darren, I wanted to talk to you about, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about the what's been recently going on with the market. And I talked to a lot of real estate agents. A lot of them were like shocked, especially the newer ones, those who actually got licensed past 2020. They're actually in a big shock right now that's market kind of like shifted or went to a stall. And if you could put like a timeline on that, I mean, I personally think the timeline would be sometime around 4th of July of last year. That's when everything kind of stopped.
That's right.
So the way I say it, that it's been long in the making already, and we were way overdue for a correction. What do you think? You went through a lot of shift yourself in a business.
Oh, absolutely. The first shift that I went through, was back in 2005. So we had 2005, 2006. I live in Louisiana, and so we had a major Hurricane Katrina came through.
Yep.
That was one of the biggest shifts we've seen in our market here locally, because everybody from New Orleans, Louisiana, were moving down to Baton Rouge and every place in between, all the way as far as west to Texas. Mm-hmm. And so it impacted everything. And that was a huge shift since I've been in the industry. And then come, 2 years later, we have the crash of the market in 2008. And Louisiana is generally the last one in, first one out of any situation. So we didn't see a huge depreciation when it comes to housing, like, for example, California, New York, Florida, some of those individual states saw. We didn't see a lot of that. We did see an influx of foreclosures come in, an influx of short sales start happening. But where we're at now, I think we're, like you mentioned earlier, we're in a correction cycle right now. And the issue that happened is that we saw something historically that's never really happened before in the history of real estate. In a less than a 12-month span, interest rates went from 2.8%, let's just say the twos, all the way up to 7% interest rate than a 12-month span. And that's unheard of, unprecedented numbers of how fast the interest rates rose. And so you're going to have some stall when it comes to that. You're going to have some attrition when it comes to, why did they do that? Why did that happen? And here's my theory on that. We all know that real estate is the governing body that affects everything within every economy. As people move into an area, right? They start using those supermarkets, going to those movie theaters, start using those places to shop and to eat and all that. And so as the supply chain started to get in new construction supply chain, what I'm referring to primarily, they couldn't get windows, they couldn't get doors, they couldn't get workers, they couldn't get garage doors. A lot of things started to slow down, causing some issues regarding the new construction building process. So the Fed basically rose the interest rates as a result of that. And when they did that, it slowed down the production cycle to allow them to catch up. Now they're starting to lower interest rates again to re-stimulate that economy and to get people to move. And so now, just in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I had an agent in my office yesterday wrote 6 offers for 6 different families on property. So we're starting to see things really start to take off. And I think we have, just think during the Obama administration, when President Obama was in office during his time, I can remember interest rates being at 5.25% and 5.75%.
I remember that, yeah.
For quite some time. I can't remember how many years that was, but it was a while. And so, I think we're getting back to a point where, we're in the 5s now. We're back to,
which is basically getting back to normal, because interest rates at 2% was not normal. I mean,
it's not. This is not doom and gloom by any means. This is a normal market, an adjusted market, and we have to do things that, granted, I don't think we'll ever see 2 or 3% interest rates in my lifetime ever again. I don't think I'll ever see that. But the fact is that, we have to come to accept what reality is right now. And what it is that interest rates are in their 5s, and they very well may go to 4s. I hope they do. But the fact is that it's still a great deal on the property, and people still need food, water, and shelter.
Yeah, and also, keep in mind there's affordability, point that where, let's say, if people were able to afford those homes at 2% interest, if the same price of the homes remains the same or slightly changes, but interest rate double, we're hitting the affordability point where not a lot of people will be able to afford those homes. So I was looking at the price correction or price reduction across the board. or values going down? What do you see on the home
I'm,
values?
I'm seeing that some places, but I'm also seeing sellers stepping in instead of paying the typical closing costs. They're also buying down the rate a lot of times is what I'm seeing on that as well. So they'll
Okay.
buy down the rate for that buyer to allow them to get into that property, for a lower rate than what they would normally cost. Because you're absolutely right. What someone can afford, let's just say a $200,000 home for round numbers, right? At 3%, you're looking at $600 principal and interest. If you go up to 7%, you're looking at $1,400. There's a huge difference, not including taxes and fees on that. So there's a huge difference there regarding the affordability index. And so I'm seeing one of the issues that we're running into right now is those buyers that were pre-approved at that lower rate. We're having to go back and rerun all their information again and get them pre-qualified for the current rate now. And some of the houses that they were interested in or the price range has to be adjusted accordingly.
So they're basically being priced out on not on the home price, but on the actual monthly payment, because majority of home buyers buying a home based on monthly payment they can afford, not the price of the house.
That's exactly right.
Say,
exactly right.
Exactly right. So we've hit that affordability, and the way I say it, it's also could be a blessing in disguise, because a lot of buyers who were actually able to afford the new monthly payment, the playing field has been cleared for them to actually buy the homes they want and get some of those discounts or home or seller incentives to do that.
Right. Absolutely.
So how does your team work with the buyers who, let's say, we're priced out now? Do you guys look for them for the homes that are in a different price range, or how do you guys work on that?
Yeah, we're basically
what's your strategy to put people in the houses?
Sure. We're basically bringing them back into the office and redoing buyer consultations with all of them, just to get, number one, get face to face with them and really just look and pull the searches on real time. So we connect to our televisions through our computers, pull up the MLS on our computers while we sit right there with them and show them what options they have available. And it all remains is what's going to be the best option for that consumer at that particular time in their life. Because the last thing we want to do is sell someone a home and cause them to be house broke. We don't want that to happen. We want to sell them something that they're going to enjoy, that they're going to love, that they can afford comfortably without having to be forced to make that payment and just be strapped for every ounce of cash. If something were to happen, a car breakdown, whatever the case may be, something happens in life, we want them to be able to comfortably afford that note. So I mean, even if a lender approves them up to, let's just say, $250,000 on a pre-approval letter, that's their max. We never recommend them to spend their max. We say, hey, look, if we can find something around 180, 200, 220, somewhere around that number, 230, let's go for that and see if that will make you happy. And so that's how we're doing this. So really, we're having to regroup with our clients and our sphere of influence, bring them in, do buyer consultations, finds out what their actual needs analysis is. What's the most important points of this home? What are the most important features that you're looking for? Do you have to have a fenced-in yard? Do you have to have a swimming pool or whatever features they're looking at? And then we can exclude those and really get to what they're exactly looking for and what they can afford properly.
Got it. Do you also work on some sort of the creative financing for the home buyers? I know some lenders right now bringing back the arms, like longer arms. Also, I've heard that they bring it out like again, seller buying down the rate. And do you see neg arms coming back anytime soon?
So some loan officers in our area are bringing back arms, 2-1 arm, 3-1 arm, that type of stuff, and basically to try to buy down that rate for that period of time, and then hopefully rates will be down low enough that they can refinance at a later time period at a lower rate if that happens. So I'm seeing those come back as well. I'm also seeing, like I mentioned earlier, seller concessions. Instead of paying a portion of their closing costs, they're buying down their rate for that buyer as well. So both of those scenarios are happening right now in our markets.
So lenders basically on board, because lenders also the business of the lenders also has been affected by this. They need to be creative in order to survive, and basically working within the realm of what we have right now as the country as a whole. So that's good. So just wanted to also ask you. You obviously have a big team, right? You said you have buyers agents, sellers agents.
I do. So I have 4 admin staff. 3 admin staff. And no, actually 4. I'm sorry, 4 admin staff, and then I also have a team of 8 agents that work with me directly. Yes.
Okay. So, what's your process on, let's say, lead generation? How do you generate leads? Do you mostly work with buyers and sellers? What's your
So I'm still in production.
Where does the business come from?
Yeah, sure. I primarily am, and I'm an open book, so you can ask me anything you want to ask me. I'm an open book. So I think, if I can provide one nugget of value to your listening audience, I'm happy because I want to see them get to their next step in their life. So that's what it's all about. But to answer your question directly, I'm still in production, and I primarily work me directly, all sellers. I don't work any buyers whatsoever. But what I do is, if you were selling your home, I would talk to you, come and interview, show you the process of selling, and then I would match your personality, and that's where the law enforcement stuff comes in. I'm very good with matching personalities with one another, and so I matched them with a personality that would mix with them. For example, I had a team member, a client called me, and his husband and wife were relocating from West Point. He was in the military, lieutenant colonel in the military, relocating from West Point down to our area, wanting to be on a golf course. So I actually paired them up with a team member of mine who's a big golfer. And it worked out great that way. And he's working with them directly because they have something in common there, right? The golf.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
I do that as well. I try to match them with someone who, military people. I try to match with military people. Anybody previously in law enforcement, I try to match them with either myself, and I'll take the initial call because I was in that capacity at one point, then give the buyer's agent. So that's how we normally do that. Our business primarily, mine, 78% of my business is past clients, sphere of influence. The other percentage of it is directly through, we do radio, we do television. I have almost 100 billboards in 3 counties or parishes that I'm in here.
Oh, wow.
So I have that up running as well. I have rap.
So the billboards actually are still out there, huh?
Billboards are still out there. Yeah, they're primarily for the branding end of it. But I had a guy that I went to church. We've since changed churches since then. But I went to church with 7 years ago, and I have a billboard right by his house. Well, it just so happened he's thinking about selling his home, so he saw.
Everybody knows you, man.
Remembered me, right? He remembered me. Otherwise, he very well may have not. So it worked out great. And so that's how that all worked out. But we get a lot of our business directly from internet advertising as well. A lot of our business comes in. We generate between 700 and 1,000 leads a month directly from internet.
Oh, wow. 700 to 1,000 leads a month. And this is mostly the buyer leads, or do you buy leads, or how do you generate through the
so I use something called GMB, Google My Business. Are you familiar with that? Google
Yep, of course. Yeah.
I utilize that a lot. We get a lot of calls off of that. Google reviews are very important in our business. So
very.
So that helps us out with placement and all that type of stuff.
So your admin stuff is running, or marketing stuff is staff is running the Google My Business, right?
Everything? Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So you guys go through Google My Business. You generate leads based off that. Do you buy leads from Zillow or realtor.com or anybody?
I don't buy any. Zillow, I have a premier agent package with those guys. I was spending several years ago about $6,000 a month with those guys. I cut that spend back tremendously on that. I was getting a lot of rental leads, which not really fruitful in our area. So long and short, I cut that back a whole lot. But I do a lot of Google AdWords. I also do Bing through Microsoft. I do ads on them as well. So that works out a lot. And I also do a lot of video marketing as well. That's another big source of our business is through video.
So basically your process is, let's say the leads come in and you have like ISAs or somebody working the phones to reach out to those leads, or you give them to your agents. So your agents would work them. How do you work?
So the way that comes in, the leads are disseminated on a round robin basis.
So like in a CRM, right? Yeah.
That's right. And we use Chime for our CRM. That's a CRM that we use.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with that. Yeah.
So you would get one, I would get one, you would get one, I would get one. It's basically the way it works throughout the team members and so forth. And they're responsible for following up with all their own leads at that point. We don't have any in-house ISAs. We do have artificial intelligence who also tries to qualify that lead or answer any additional questions that they may have. But the agents actually do it pretty well. We're converting at almost a 2% conversion rate right now, which is
not bad at all. Yeah,
2 or 3%. I'd like to get that up a little bit higher, but it's tough. As far as everything that you have to do on a daily basis. So one of the things that we are considering, in fact, right before this meeting, or this call, I had my team meeting, and we're looking at bringing in an ISA in-house to handle that end up. So we're debating that right now. So
got it. I see during this period of the market, I see a lot of agents actually retreating from the business, so to say. They basically say, hey, you know what? It's too hard. I gotta like cut down my expenses, or I have to like take up another job or something. But basically retreating. On the same token, I see agents who are actually doubling down on advertising, on hiring VAs. I see basically because I'm in a VA business, so I see what's going on. So
Sure.
what's your take on this? In this market, would you double down, or would you kind of like carefully observe what's going to be happening, or you would significantly cut down your marketing expense? What would you do?
Well, that's a great question because I did the same analogy back in 2008 when the market crashed, right?
Yeah.
When most people in advertising and so forth and marketing, they will jump in there, and whenever there's a downturn, they all pull out of the budget. They pull out, they cut out advertising. A lot of people do that initially. I'm one that doubles down in those arenas, and I've always been that way because whenever the market does spin back around, I want to be that much further ahead of having to try to regain ground of what I lost by pulling out initially. So I always double down in a time of adversity or any of that type of stuff. I'm going to put more into it to try to get more out of it. And that's the way I've always done it.
That's a good way of doing things, and that all comes to the mindset, I guess, of some people, so because a lot of people are just being scared, and it's a natural reaction. It's understandable, but I guess, it totally comes from the mindset of the business operator. So I can
in
see
today's
that.
world, with social media and everything that you have out there, I tell my agents, the death of a salesperson is white space on your calendar. There's too many opportunities out there, right? So, I mean, what should you be doing on a day-to-day basis? And you said it at the very beginning of the podcast. Discipline is the key
100%.
in this whole entire process. The difference between success and failure in anything you do in life is implementation. We can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but if we don't ever act on it, it's still just talk. And so that discipline of getting up every day, even when you don't feel like it, making your calls every day when you're getting hung up on, and just being disciplined to
it's like going to the gym. Basically, you got to do it consistently.
Consistently.
It doesn't matter whether you want to do it or you don't want to do it. You got to go. You got to go.
You got to do it. You got to get there. And that's the thing. You got to live today like no other, so tomorrow you can have a life like no other, and that's the key.
Exactly. I mean, I 100% on board with you on that one. So, just to wrap it up, Darren, what would be your advice to agents who got licensed last year or 2020 or 2021 because everything was easy? The deals were basically falling into their laps and not doing that anymore. What would be your advice to those guys?
I would definitely get back to the fundamentals of doing things. Find a proven mentor in your business who is doing very well. Ask them to mentor them. Join that team that's going to help you get to the next level in your business. That's the key in the process. You can cut out so much time of doing things the wrong way by working with someone who's doing them the right way and can basically fast track your levels to success. That's the key in the process. Also, the second thing is you can't be everything to everybody. So you have to leverage yourself and leverage your time. So get you a virtual assistant to help you with your work. The workload there, we're on this call now. Your company is fantastic at what you do, no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. Utilize that into its maximum capacity to where you can do more deals. I mean, there's only so many ways to make more money in this business. You can do more deals, or you can charge more money, and you can leverage yourself, right? And the thing is that we try to give fair prices and give the best service that we possibly can to everyone that we serve. And part of that has to do with our leverage. There's a famous book out there called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent that talks about
Gary Keller. Yeah.
Talks about listings, leads, and leverage, right? And that's the key in this process. Think about it this way. If you go to a convenience store to buy milk and there's no milk on that shelf, you're going to leave there and go somewhere else. Well, that's what you're trying to sell is basically a home. You got to have listings, and then you got to generate.
You got to have inventory. Exactly. Yeah,
that's the key in the process, and then leverage your time, because no matter how much money we all make, utilize the systems of virtual assistants, utilize the systems of your staff members, and just leverage that as much as you possibly can to be the best that you can be.
Awesome. Well, Darren, thank you very much for being on our podcast today. Thanks for sharing your stuff with us, your wisdom, and how you do things. Because I hope a lot of agents would listen and actually would start doing it in their markets. And I want to specifically talk to people who are in the situation of despair right now, and don't know what to do and how to do it because some of them never experienced that, what's happening right now. So specifically talking to those guys. So thank you very much. Hope I'm going to see you at the one of the EXP events. We're going to be in Shareholders, I think, in Orlando, and EXP Con. Yeah.
I'll be at both of those, and just know that we're talking to your target audience, right? So I live by an acronym called HOPE, HOPE, and it stands for Have Only Positive Expectations in everything you do in life, and that'll help you get to the next level. So always have those positive expectations.
Awesome.